I just told you my son had a Uzi. I'm not going to lie to the public. This is a crisis right now.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about a mother in Baltimore who recognizes what's happening in the city, all the crime, all the violence, even from her own son. Now, this is a thing that you really don't see too much in these communities. People that have accountability, people that say that their children are part of the problem, they don't want to say, oh, my baby didn't do it, he didn't do nothing. No, this mom is like, hey, my son was acting the fool, he was carrying the Uzi, I got him up out of there and prevented a bad thing from happening, especially since the boy that they were talking about was 12 years old and got killed. That could have been her son that did it, or that could have been that boy that did it to him. Now, before I go any further, let's go ahead and get into the full video. If you want to see this in full without my commentary, link as always will be in the description. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio and go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Patty Hawkins says her son knew Jalen Richards, the 12-year-old gunned down Saturday night. Patty told us she tried to reach out to his mom to tell her what was going on with her son. Hawkins spoke with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost in Hagerstown after she moved her son out of Baltimore City.
Look at why this is happening.
Sitting in a park some 70 miles outside of Baltimore City, Patty Hawkins talks about fights her son Khalil was getting into while going.
So I guess the video right here that she's showing on her phone is her son getting jumped. I think that's what's happening. She'll talk about that more a little bit later.
Going to and from school in Baltimore.
These kids are beefing over the game, and then you have other adults intervening in the situation, and they're instigating it.
She says Khalil was jumped and robbed. And that's when she first learned about Jalen Richards, the 12-year-old who was gunned down Saturday night in South Baltimore.
I went to Jalen's mom, and I said, your son threatened my son with a gun. My son is getting ready to turn 17. My son would really hurt your son.
Now, let's just pause for a second, just so we're on the same page and there's no confusion. Her son did not shoot and kill the boy that's dead, the 12-year-old. The 12-year-old had previously threatened her 17-year-old son with a gun. And so the mom of the 17-year-old went to the mom of the 12-year-old and was like, hey, your son threatened my son with a gun. My son could really hurt your son. She's trying to warn the mom. And unfortunately, somebody else got to the 12-year-old not. Well, it wouldn't be right if her son did it, but I'm just saying somebody else got to her son. The mother was not able to protect the 12-year-old.
What made you go to his mom about what?
Because, you know, these kids knocked my son out.
But things did not get better. They only escalated. One day, Hawkins says she got a call from her daughter who said Khalil had a gun at school.
I walked in there by myself and grabbed my son out of their school with an Uzi in his backpack.
Your son had a gun in his?
Yes, he went up to Douglas to shoot up like those kids. He was not playing. They knocked him out and robbed him. All because he doesn't want to be in a gang.
Her son refusing to tell her where the gun came from. She turned it over to Baltimore police and moved her son to Hagerstown. But before uprooting the family, Hawkins says she tried to meet with several parents of kids who were having problems.
Let's pause right there. Now, the whole thing about her son being jumped and knocked out and robbed or whatever for not wanting to be part of a gang, that does happen. Absolutely. I've heard about that, especially back in the day. You know, if you weren't part of the gang, you were just going to be a mark. You were going to be the guy that got robbed. You were going to be the guy that got beat up. That's just kind of how it was in some of these communities, some of these urban inner city gang infested environments. That is kind of what goes on. And a lot of the times the gangbangers are very young teenagers. You really don't see, or preteens like 10, 12 years old, you really don't see grown men getting into gangs unless they want to be a rapper or something corny like that. But I digress.
These 16, 7 of them are gone now. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. It's a crisis. I don't know how else to look at it.
But not much was done. Hawkins describing a lack of interest from some parents in their kids' lives.
This is getting crazy, and I'm recognizing that the parents care more about going out to clubs, partying. I've been pounding the streets with this situation with other parents.
And that concern echoed Monday.
This morning.
Yeah, the parents don't care. The parents couldn't care less. A lot of these parents, that's why the kids are out there like that, because the parents are nowhere to be found. You'll see kids, like little kids, 7, 8 years old, outside walking that night, 12 o'clock at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, little kids outside. It's like, where's your mom and your dad at? Or somebody, your grandma, your mima, somebody, where's the adult supervision The adults don't care. They down the way getting drunk in some dingy nightclub with their shoes off, okay? Stepping on all types of blunt guts and everything else. They don't really care about these kids. That's why they can't read, because the parents don't care. The parents will send the kids to kindergarten with no skills whatsoever. None. It's like a piece of raw clay. You see, my mother didn't do that. I come from the so-called hood too, but my mom is a person that thinks and understands that you got to be able to teach kids something before they go to school and then throughout their entire time in school. It's not the government's job to just babysit your kids. These kids grow like weeds in the garden, unwanted, no sense of direction, no purpose. It just kind of happened. I'm getting triggered. I'm gonna see what the mayor says.
By Mayor Brandon Scott and City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
We have adults in our city who are failing to set an example for our youth.
They're your children. You have to raise your children. We have to do our jobs as your leaders, but parents, we ask you to help us as you do your jobs as well.
But how to hold parents accountable for their kids and their actions remains the unanswered question. And one city leaders say they're digging into. Now, Hawkins says kids are being targeted by adults running gangs and circles in the city, especially after laws changed last year, shielding young kids from certain crimes.
I feel like they're prey to these predators, these.
Did you hear that part? So they're changing certain laws to basically decriminalize the violence from the kids, right? Oh, these kids, you got to protect these kids. Just like, what was that? The mayor out there in Chicago, the new mayor, Brandon Johnson, talking about, oh, well, you got to protect the kid. I'm like, okay, when you do stuff like that, all it's going to do is incentivize the older dope boys, gang members, the 20-something-year-old, 30-something-year-olds to go target these little boys and put them out there in the streets because they know if the boys get caught doing X, Y, and Z, that it won't be a very big penalty. That's all you're going to do. And these boys, 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, ready to go. Did you hear the mother earlier? She said that the 12-year-old who was dead, not by the hands of her son, but by somebody else, who knows, but the 12-year-old who was dead threatened her 17-year-old son with a gun. A gun. How does a 12-year-old get a gun? One of the older homies doing X, Y, and Z. I don't want to play this entire clip right here. You guys get the picture. I'll link to the whole 12-minute clip in the description box. And also on a link in the bio on IG, visit the website, go to the corresponding article, see it right there for yourself. But as I close, I want to say this. Shout out to this mom for trying. Shout out to her for trying, because that's more than what a lot of mothers would do. A lot of parents, a lot of mothers could not care less. They don't care. Their kids are out here thugging and drugging, carrying on. They couldn't care less. Whatever. I'm at the club. I'm getting drunk, high, whatever with my homies. Okay? I'm riding through Baltimore, doing whatever I want to do. That's generally how it goes. So she did the right thing, taking her son out of Baltimore, going to, what was it, Hagerstown or somewhere like that, in another part of Maryland, out of the city. That's the right way to go. And hopefully her boy, and if she has other kids, hopefully they are on the right path and don't revert back to the Baltimore city ways. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about what's going on here in a place like Baltimore? Is it the parents, the leaders? What's happening? If you ask me, it's the parents first and foremost, because the parents are not raising the kids properly. They just kind of do whatever. And then the second rung of that is leadership. You are decriminalizing essentially violence from young people, gangbanging and drug selling from young people. Once you decriminalize something like that, you're going to get more of it. You're living in these poverty-stricken environments. You get these predator older males out there that want to take advantage of these kids to put money in their own pocket. It's just too easy for them to fall into a trap like that. You shouldn't be doing stuff like that. You should encourage lawful behavior, having stricter punishment even for the youth out there. I don't know about Maryland, but in Virginia, you can be charged at age 14 as an adult. It should be the same thing out there. And if you're out here thugging and drugging, carrying on as a youth, there needs to be harsh punishments, not soft punishments, because all you're going to do is encourage more of that same type of antisocial, destructive, and terroristic behavior. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.